Welcome to the first episode of the Mizuho Dialogue. I'm Woon Heng.
And I'm Jing Yi.
We are market economists from the macroeconomics research desk at Mizuho Bank. Each episode of the Mizuho Dialogue will be on one market-related macroeconomics topic. For today, we will talk about the Indonesian Rupiah. The Indonesian Rupiah has weakened about 1.6% as of today, as compared to the US dollar. It has outperformed the likes of the Malaysian ringgit and the Thai baht, but underperformed the Philippine peso and the renminbi for this year. But that is despite the backdrop whereby people are talking about rate cuts by the Fed, right? And maybe today we'll start with Jing Yi to share with us some underlying reasons behind the Rupiah weakening.
Yeah, sure, Boon Heng. So I think one key factor behind the sluggish performance of the Rupiah is the diminished real rate advantage of the Rupiah vis-a-vis the US dollar. And this is important for the Rupiah because of Rupiah is quite a common currency for carry trades, whereby investors they borrow from low-yielding currencies and investing in high-yielding currencies. So when we think about real rates, so it's approximately equals to the nominal rates minus inflation rate. So there are two parts to consider. So let's first look at nominal rates. So since the Fed commenced its rate hiking cycle, it has increased the FFR by 525 basis points. But Bank Indonesia has only increased the BI rate by 250 basis points. So we can already see that the nominal rate differentials has narrowed substantially. And next, let us look at inflation. So inflation in the US has come down from the mid-teens in mid-2020. From the teens in mid-2022 to 4.3% in December. But in Indonesia, the high of inflation was only at about 6% and is currently in December it was 2.6%. So this means that in terms of the real rates, because the disinflation process in US is much steeper, so effectively the real rates in US has increased much more than that in Indonesia. And looking forward, I think that there is potential that the differentials could diminish even further. And reason being is that when we look at the target ranges of the central bank, so at 3.4%, inflation in US still has some way to go to reach 2%. But inflation in Indonesia is already within BI's target range of 1.5 to 3.5%.
That's right. I absolutely agree with you, Jing Yi. Investors not only look at nominal rates, they also look at real rates. But Jing Yi, that's all in the past, right? So going forward, if the Fed is going to cut rates, right, and the markets are pricing in about 120 basis points of rate cuts this year, so wouldn't that be helpful for the Rupiah going forward?
Yes, I think when we think about the Fed cutting rates, I think it's important to ask ourselves also, like, why is the Fed cutting rates? So if the Fed is cutting rates in response to the softer inflation that the disinflation process is mild and gradual and trending towards the 2%, while the US economy is still fairly resilient, or what we term the soft landing scenario. Yes, I do think that the Rupiah will get a boost under this scenario. But we also have to consider what if the Fed is cutting rates in response to a more severe downturn in the US economy than expected, and that thereby embarking on a more aggressive rate cutting cycle. So I think the risk here would be that because of if the economy performs worse than expected, I think this could it might actually spark off some risk of mood, and we could potentially see some flight to haven currencies. And in this scenario, I think the Rupiah would not stand to gain any advantage from a risk of mood.
Certainly, Jing Yi. So rating is giving us a very good reminder that we need to remember what is the backdrop at which these Fed rate cuts will take place in, right? What's the reasons behind these rate cuts? In previous crises, when the Fed cuts rates, there is often a flight to safe haven right? And as such, EM Asia currencies, aside from the rupiah, the ringgit and the Thai baht, will often weaken as well. So that is a very important point to take note, right? Whereby if there's a immaculate inflation, whereby inflation comes down softly, then perhaps the rupiah could get a little boost. So okay, let's move on away from rates. After all, Indonesia is a major commodity exporter of palm oil, nickel, and coal. So in terms of this commodity exports, I would expect that given the energy demand, the coal demand should be quite resilient, right? And these days, the headline grabbing things are like EVs, which is a heavy reliance on the nickel in terms of batteries. So I would expect that this backdrop will help the rupiah, but apparently that hasn't. Could you shed some light this thing?
Yeah, sure, Bunhing. Actually, when we look at exports of Indonesia, when we look at palm oil exports and coal, as well as iron and steel as a proxy of nickel exports, we do see some export volume growth there. But I think the problem is that this amount of volume growth, they have been outweighed by price effects. The reality is that commodities prices, they have slumped by quite a big margin. So coal and palm oil prices, they have fallen more than 60% from their 2022 levels, and nickel has fallen about 40% from the 2022 levels. So price effects are important because when we look at the current account is nominal in nature, and the current account it details it shows the balance, whereby is the receipts that a country receives from the goods it produces, and then the payments it makes for the goods that it buys. So the price effects of these commodities is arguably pushing Indonesia's current account back into a deficit position, and current account deficit position is a negative for the rupiah, insofar as it means that Indonesia is spending more than it's buying in nominal terms.
Definitely agree with that. Indonesia's current account has reverted back to a deficit position. So in terms of the individual commodities, I do know that from my surveillance of the Australian economy, right, because of the toying relations, especially in terms of economics, right, between China and Australia, right, Australian coal exports have picked up in recent months, and also because there's some substitution effects between Indonesian and Australian coal. And Australian coal has a higher calorific content, right, compared to Indonesian coal, and therefore there can be some underlying substitution effects away from Indonesian coal to Australian coal. Also, in terms of the broad picture of global coal market demand, if you take a look at the top three importers of coal in the world, right, China, India, Japan, if you aggregate them, actually global coal demand has come down on a year-ago basis. But it is noted that actually China's demand for coal is still growing. But given the macroeconomic backdrop that China is experiencing is rather gloomy, right? The demand for coal is out of building economic resilience, power grid resilience, rather than economic buoyancy. And as such, we will find that perhaps it is a struggle for coal prices to recover at a fast pace in the next few months and even the year ahead. But what about nickel and palm oil, Ting?
Yeah, sure. So for nickel, I think currently we are seeing kind of like a supply glut. When we look at the inventories in London Metal Exchange, actually inventories has been rising at quite a fast pace, which suggests that like demand is just simply not outpacing supply. So I think that the slump, the depressed nickel prices, I think it could still prolong for a while more, because it would take time for the inventories to be drawn down. And for palm oil, I think because it is agriculture produce, and we are currently in a cycle of El Nino, which is expected to last until May 2024. So typically in Southeast Asia during El Nino, we typically see higher temperatures as well as lower rainfalls, and this would negatively impact harvest yields. So I think when we look at past El Nino cycles, palm oil prices, they tend to rise during El Nino season, and I think this could provide some support for Indonesia's exports, because I think that the price effects of palm oil could outweigh any fall in volume exports due to a poorer harvest. But I do not think that this would be sufficient to stem the tide of reversion of Indonesia's current account back into deficit.
All right, thank you very much. Do know that commodity prices have been suppressed. The commodity headwinds have faded for the rupiah. So now that we have talked about trade and we have also talked about rates, let's move on to politics. Indonesia elections is just around the corner. Indonesians go to the poll on 14 February to elect the president as well as the legislature. So for those who may not be regularly keeping up with Indonesian politics, I'll just give a brief rundown of the candidate pairs. So the first pair will be Prabowo Subianto and Gibran Rakabuming, and they remain the front runner in opinion polls right now. Prabowo Subianto is the current defense minister, while Gibran is the eldest son of President Joko Widodo. The second pair is Ganjar Pranowo and Muhammad Mahfud. Ganjar Pranowo is the governor of Central Java from 2013 to 2023 and is nominated by the largest political party in Indonesia, the PTIP, whereby Muhammad Mahfud is the minister, or rather the ex-minister of law. He has resigned recently to concentrate on the elections. The third pairing is Anies Baswedan and Muhammad Iskandar. Anies Baswedan was a former Minister of Education in Jokowi's cabinet from 2014 to 2016, and he was also the governor of Jakarta from 2017 to 2022, where he served as an independent. Muhammad Iskandar serves as the Deputy Speaker of the People's Representative Council from 2019 and is the chairman of the National Awakening Party since 2005. In terms of economic policy directions, the Anies Baswedan pair is a bit more anti-Jokowi in the sense that they have opposed the moving of the capital city to Nusantara, as well as Jokowi's downstreaming policy, whereby they cited impact, especially environmental impact, to the Indonesian population as a result of the downstreaming policies. As for Ganjar Pranowo or Prabowo Subianto, they remain more aligned to current President Jokowi's economic policy directions, with some minor tweaks being suggested on and off. So with this backdrop, thinking how to think the political outcomes can play out, and what do you think is the rupiah's reaction for these upcoming elections?
Thank you, Boon Hing, for such a detailed background brief on the different candidate pairs. I think when we think about the upcoming elections, I think it might be instructive to look at the poll results. So yeah, as you have mentioned, Prabowo, Gibran, they are currently leading in the polls at about 46.4%. However, I actually attribute about a 30% possibility that they are able to secure 50% of the votes required to win the top seats in Indonesia. And the reason is that because I think we should adjust the numbers for the potential of swing voters, the proportion of undecided voters, as well as some margin of error in the poll results, from the poll results to the actual results. Yeah, but however, in the instance if Prabowo Gibran pair they do get elected, I think that the rupiah could see a brief rally, but I think this rally will soon dissipate. In a sense that we currently already see news reports of and rumors about cabinet risks within Jokowi's department, Jokowi's cabinet, and I think that markets would be more cautious in relation to this to this development, and they will want more certainty on economic policy direction, and they will also want more concrete fiscal plans.
I think there's really a non-negligible chance of a first round win from the probable Subianto pair. But the base case remains that there's a high likelihood there'll be a second round reactions, which will be held elections that will be held on the 26th of June, right? And in that scenario, how do you think the rupiah will react, and what are the various possibilities that can play out?
Yeah, I think when we move into the second round, I think we have to consider the different scenarios that may play out. So with Prabowo Gibran currently leading the polls, I think in all likelihood they will proceed to the second round. But I think it's quite a close call between Anies Mohaimin as well as Ganjar Mahfud, because their polls are about 20%. Both at about 20%. So yeah, but either way, I think that a prolonged election season would be a negative for the rupiah, because I think it risks magnifying any imaginary or existing differences that can potentially be divisive. So let us first consider the case whereby Ganjar Mahfud proceed to the second round. So in this case, I think that the risk is that it could potentially bring internal cabinet risks to the news headlines because of PDIP's material presence in the cabinet as well as ministerial level, and as well as tensions with Jokowi from has a PDI is from PDIP, but he's supporting candidate pair not nominated by PDIP. And next, we move on to the second candidate pair, Anies Mohaimin. So if they proceed to the second round, I think there's a even greater risk of rupiah volatility insofar that due to this pair's positioning as an opposition, because they have openly voiced objections against Jokowi's policies. So I think there could be more volatility and tensions, at least in the news headlines. But I think also, ironically, this could actually help Prabowo Gibran win at the polls because they are Jokowi's. They have committed to follow Jokowi's economic directions, and Jokowi is still currently enjoying very high approval ratings at about 70%. Yeah, so I think this might be quite an interesting scenario to watch if we do indeed move to the second round.
Alright, so now that we've covered our politics, just one last question before we wrap up. So given the uncertainty of all these political outcomes on 14th February, do you think that there will be any implications on Bank Indonesia's meeting, which is just 1 week after, on the 21st of February? Is there any political pressures to move policy, for example, to have rate cuts?
Okay, so for the upcoming Bank Indonesia meeting, my base case is currently a hold, but I think that so the elections do have an impact, because I think that the Bank Indonesia will keep quite a cautious eye on the rupiah's reaction post elections, because we have the quick count, and you can roughly get a sense of whether will there be a first round winner or will we proceed to the second round. So I think rupiah's reaction will be key to watch. Yeah, but my base case for a whole is mainly because I think Indonesia's macro fundamentals are broadly supportive. Inflation, I think it should remain comfortably within Bank Indonesia's target range. And Indonesia's growth also remain fairly resilient, although risks are tilted to the downside. So while domestic investments have been accelerating, we do see a sharp moderation in foreign investments growth in December. And this could be due to the upcoming elections, and if if the election season does get prolonged when we proceed to the second round, I think there's a potential that foreign investments growth could fall even further. And in addition, the domestic private consumption, which has been the key driver of growth in recent quarters, I think we do see some signs that could suggest that households are increasingly stretched. We see accelerating non-performing consumer loans as well as retail sales moderating sharply in December. So these are some of the key risks to watch. Yeah, but that said, I think so the rupiah's stability, to the importance of rupiah stability to Bank Indonesia cannot be understated. I think this is most tellingly revealed in BI's October decision, whereby they actually staged a surprise 25 basis points hike, and effectively walking back on their declaration, that they were done and dusted with the rate hiking cycle, which they made back in quarter 3. So I think this surprise hike was arguably prompted in response to the September Fed dot plot, which saw the rupiah weakening by quite a large margin. So I do think that if the rupiah weakens excessively during post-elections, I think that we could see another hike by BI.
Alright, thank you, Zing. So our base case for Bank Indonesia remains that Bank Indonesia will hold rates, right, unless there's the outsized weakening of the Indonesian rupiah, as Indonesian rupiah remains critical to Bank Indonesia. So with that, we have come to the end of this episode, and it'll be a wrap for now. Thank you everyone for your kind attention. Right, if you like our video, click like, hit on the notification button, subscribe to our channel to get regular updates, and feel free to contact your respective sales desk or RMs if you have a particular topic of interest which you want us to feature in our next video. Thank you very much, and have a happy Lunar New Year. Thank you.
Thank you.